We have to make sure everyone has access to maintain affordable health insurance coverage. We should be making it easier, not harder, to make sure make sense to, let me put it another way. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. You're right about one thing, Joe. It certainly doesn't make any sense. That was Joe Biden last night on a live stream town hall, once again exhibiting that cognitive decline and dementia that we've been talking about on this channel. His sheer inability to communicate and how that's going to hurt him in this election. It hasn't really yet, at least not to the extent that he's behind Donald Trump, but it's certainly going to play a role as he gets more and more media attention and as more and more medium and low information voters actually start paying attention to the general election politics. Right now, only really engaged people are interested, but that's going to change as things get closer to the election. And so that's clearly what we talked about yesterday on this channel, where Tom Rogers, the founder of MSNBC, somebody who seemingly wants to see Biden do well, was worried that Biden can't communicate, that Biden's words are important, but he has to be able to use them well, and that he's fundamentally concerned that this strategy of Biden hiding in the basement while Donald Trump just makes a fool of himself won't actually deliver results when the election comes around. It's not enough for Donald Trump to look bad and Biden to sort of stand aside. Biden has to be proactive. Biden actually has to get the job done. He can't just give interviews like this time and time again. It doesn't inspire confidence. And what's crucial here is not just that Biden couldn't talk, not just that Biden tried to say Trump's plan doesn't make sense, while he doesn't actually himself make sense in his ability to speak. It's actually troubling because he's trying to talk about how Donald Trump's healthcare plan doesn't make sense, how the Republican vision of healthcare doesn't make sense. And Biden's right, but his own plan is fundamentally broken. He's talking here in this nebulous term of access to healthcare, of ensuring that more people can get access to insurance. But the problem with the Biden model, and I've noted this for months and months and months now, is that in the best of times, under the best of circumstances, 10 million Americans will be left without insurance. The Biden public option, hybrid public-private model does not actually guarantee access to healthcare. When people on the corporate Democrat side emphasize healthcare access, they're trying to downplay the reality that their private models, their public option models, their Medicare for all who want it models aren't actually going to guarantee access. And when they say access to healthcare, even if someone gets access to it, there's no guarantee that will be sufficient healthcare, adequate healthcare, that it could be insurance technically, but one that's so riddled with copays, deductibles, exceptions, network exclusions, that a person can't get the care they actually want. They don't have any meaningful choice or freedom or access when it comes down to it. But you can say, we've given that person access to healthcare because we've expanded access to private insurance, or we've given people a quasi-public option that technically means they have some healthcare now. Job done. We've given people access to healthcare. What you need to have people say is, we want to guarantee every man, woman, and child, every American, Medicare for all. What is guaranteed under the current Medicare system, which is, only available to older folks, should be for everyone as a right of citizenship. That is a clear promise, a definitive promise, a promise that means something. It's not a wiggle room. It's not a weasel word. It's not a, bait and switch. Healthcare for all, single payer, Medicare, everyone gets it. Rich, poor, in between, everyone. No exceptions. That's the way forward. And really, that was the Bernie Sanders model. And Joe Biden, again, it's not just his inability to communicate. It's that even when you can pierce what he's saying through the gibberish, what he's saying is awful. Biden is steadfastly sticking to a version of healthcare that leaves the most vulnerable without insurance in the best of times. And he looks at the current scenario and he says 35, 40 million people unemployed, many of them losing their health care, their spouses and their children also losing health care in many cases. What's the solution here? A public option? Is that really going to work? The next time something like this happens and tens of millions of people need to immediately switch from a private model to a public model, how is it going to work with paying for it? Are these people going to have to pay to access the public option? How is that going to work? Is there going to be any costs, Joe? If somebody has no dollars, they can't afford health care, even if it's quote unquote cheap and accessible. The only solution, 100%, when the chips are down, is single-payer healthcare, no cost to the person at the point of use. It's funded entirely through tax revenue, and it is available to you whether or not you have employment, because there is no more private model that competes alongside the public model. A national, universal, single-payer system. So when you hear Joe Biden, sure, let's talk about the fact that the man can't communicate. Crucial. But we really have to say, it's not just that there's the cognitive decline and dementia that makes Biden a weak candidate. He's fundamentally weak because even if we could snap our fingers and make Joe Biden as eloquent as Barack Obama, he would still have all the broken neoliberal policies that leave millions of working class people behind and uninspired. And if there's a recipe for someone to lose a very winnable election to Donald Trump, it's putting forth the neoliberal policies that failed in 2016 and ignoring that only Bernie Sanders and his vision was the ticket to energizing working class, young, diverse voters to bring a level of turnout that could guarantee victory against Donald Trump.